Hello and welcome to episode number 127 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show, it is time to count down the best games and movies of the second quarter. One of these lists surprisingly full, the other list surprisingly empty. Which one is which? Stay tuned to find out. We'll also look forward to this week's new releases and the streams happening over on twitch.tv/Shaunosaurus If you're watching this and you're curious where the review for Detroit Become Human is, the finale in the Quantic Dream retrospective, that'll be pushed to next week. It's for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't manage my time super well. Two, the second half of the game seems like it's much longer than the first half of the game. And three, I wasn't really enjoying it. So we'll wrap that up next week with rankings. Unfortunately, the downside of this means that I get one extra week to think about, wow, that was a really bad idea to do the Quantic Dream retrospective, because it just didn't work out. But on to something positive, we're going to talk about the best of the second quarter. We will start with the movies because that is nice and easy. First off, we'll give you a nice recap of what happened before. The ranking looks like this. Thanks, past Sean, in whatever particular order you so choose to put them in. Thank you. We had Just Mercy, Birds of Prey, The Invisible Man, and Extraordinary. That's the last one there. And after thinking about it in like the lead up to this video, I would go Just Mercy, Extraordinary, Invisible Man, and Birds of Prey in that order. At the time that I recorded the video, there wasn't really anything to look forward to as far as like solid dates coming out. So technically I didn't look forward to anything, which also means that technically I didn't miss anything, though I did say that I was going to watch How to Build a Girl, I think twice, and then I was very excited about Da 5 Bloods, but I never watched it, and Irresistible came out really late in the game, and I just didn't get to it. So technically, no, I didn't miss anything, but also technically, yes, because I pointed things out that I was interested in, sometimes twice, and just didn't get around to it. But that's okay. That's what July is for. July is for catch-up. As for the things I did watch, they weren't that exciting. I watched Scoob, and I watched The Lovebirds. I watched 2 movies in an entire quarter. There have been days and weekends where I have watched a minimum of 2 new movies, sometimes up to 3. And that's all I did. For some reason, I just don't do a great job of watching movies at home. And then I'm like, oh, I'll watch this TV show. There's no way I could fit a 2.5 hour movie in right now. I'll watch a TV show for 7 episodes, which is roughly 2.5 hours. But we'll move past that point. There wasn't a whole lot even coming out. Even if you take the 3 that I missed or just didn't watch, there still wasn't a ton going on just because everything's closed and everything's moved to streaming, which has made it kind of hard to keep track of because I don't feel like a lot of this stuff's getting good traction. The best example of this would actually be My Spy, which is a movie that was originally scheduled for a year ago in August. And then it got moved to January, then it got moved to April. I believe I pointed it out every single time that the quarters rolled around. It's on Amazon Prime just all of a sudden, and I just had no idea. So I'm sure there's good stuff out there. I'm just not seeing it because it's not in front of my face. I also don't use those apps a ton. I'm much more of a Twitch and YouTube person, more towards Twitch, than I am like a Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime guy. Even though I'm still paying for CBS All Access. They wrote me in with Picard, and I just never canceled it. But back to the 2 movies that I actually did watch. Neither of them were particularly good. I liked The Lovebirds, but I didn't like the end of it, which would kind of follow this year's theme of like a movie that I enjoyed but has a weird quirk to it. And then Scoob just didn't really do anything all that special. I really like the animation style, but it didn't give me enough information to care. It seemed like it trusted you, the audience, to know more than they were willing to tell you. And I feel like if you were taking something that is that old, because that's from the 60s, so that's 55 years old, somewhere in there. If you're trying to reboot it or give it to a new generation, you need to give them better backstory and build those characters a little bit differently. But it was still like, it was a good time, but it wasn't anything wildly special. So that means that the movie rankings are actually going to remain the same. Number 1, Just Mercy. Number 2, Extraordinary. Number 3, Invisible Man. And number 4, Birds of Prey. I guess you could throw The Lovebirds into that 5th spot, but that kind of just rounded out to a solid 5, and it's kind of a gelatin 5 at best. As for what's next, everything's still very fluid, and it doesn't seem like anything's really sticking. The number 1 movie that I am very excited for, and I have been excited for all year, has been Tenet. It's been moved twice in the last couple of weeks. Its release date pushed back to mid-August. I don't really think that's going to hold. We also have A Quiet Place Part 2, which is scheduled for early September, and we have The Kingsman, which is kind of an interesting one because it's a prequel to Kingsman: The Secret Service, which means that it's a prequel to a franchise that's already batting 50-50. I really like Kingsman: The Secret Service. I think it's a fun spy movie. It really clicks with me. I don't think The Golden Circle is very good. It's inconsistent at best, and at worst it feels like three completely separate movies that they crammed together, and it's just kind of an uneven mess at some points. I don't like some of the decisions they made. Channing Tatum, for as much as he was in the the advertising material, is in this movie for a grand total of like 5 minutes. It's a wonky and weird movie, and I kind of wish I was more excited for The Kingsman, but I also watched the most recent trailer. I think it's trailer number 3, and it just didn't look good. So I'm curious about it because I like that world, even with kind of a wobbly foundation set with one good, one not so great movie. I think it has a really cool style to it. I'm curious, but I'm not like, wow, I gotta run out and see this. That being said, I won't be going back to the theater anytime soon, so even if these movies do come out, I'll be waiting for them to come to Blu-ray. The second quarter of the games was actually a lot more packed than I thought it was until I started writing it down, and it filled up like a whole page in my little notebook, and I was like, wow, I bought and played a lot of games this year. Just to remind you, at the end of the first quarter, I had game number 1 was Animal Crossing New Horizons, number 2 was Coffee Talk, and number 3 was The Complex. After posting the video, I remember that I should have put Dragon in there somewhere. I probably would have put it at number 3. It was a weird little mystery kind of walking simulator game where you're trying to figure out what's going on in this little town, if I remember correctly. It's a little far back. I think I played it in February. It's now June. I'm having trouble remembering specific details of it, but I do remember liking it, finding it weird and engaging, and it was one that I was like, shoot, should have put that one on the list. So that's what we're working with as our baseline going into quarter 2 in review. I did point out a couple of games that I was looking forward to. All of them came out in April, and thankfully, because I actually had to watch the video today of myself talking, I did point out that there were 4 games that I was looking forward to. Final Fantasy VII Remake, we all know how well that went. Totally Reliable Delivery Service. I pointed out Snaky Bus, which at the time of recording I had already played and completed, and then the final one was Moving Out. I also mentioned Disaster Report 4, but I didn't put it in the part of like, hey Sean, for when you're reviewing this for next time, here's this. So yeah, so that one I guess kind of half counts, maybe it doesn't at all. Doesn't really matter. I did miss 2 of them though. I do believe I bought both of them, or they were both on Game Pass, or bought one of them and one of them was on Game Pass, something like that. They're both on my Xbox hard drive. That's the point. I just never got around to them. I did play Final Fantasy VII, like I mentioned, and obviously I did play Snaky Bus because I said that I did even before I recorded that video. And I even played Disaster Report 4, so technically 2 for 4, 3 for 5, 2.5 for 4.5, maybe? I don't know. As for the games that I did play this quarter, I have 6 of them that I would like to point out for you. Number 6 is actually Saints Row the Third Remastered, a game that holds up surprisingly well, looks great, runs fine. It is a game that I still enjoy 9 years after the fact, and I'm happy that it holds up so well, and it isn't like, this doesn't control well, or the humor doesn't sit well, or whatever. I had a good time with it. Saints Row the Third has always been a game that I've really enjoyed because I feel like it's the first in the series that really established its own tone, and it somehow balanced this incredibly high wire act of balancing all their ridiculous absurdity with characters that are like kind of grounded in reality and a story that's actually engaging and interesting. And it's mind-boggling even now to walk around in the game with like a big purple dildo bat and still care about Oleg and Shondi and Pierce and Zemos and all these characters that you actually come to love because they're actually really well written and fully realized, and they're just well done. I really enjoyed this game. It looks great. I watched a little bit of a Digital Foundry video where they were showing the remaster and the original 2011 game on PlayStation 3, and it looks a lot better. It kind of looks how you would remember it looking, but then you would load up your PS3 copy and be like, oh god, this doesn't look good. But the Xbox One version looks pretty good. It's a game, again, just holds up really well, and I had a fun time playing 2/3 of it. I never got around to completing it. There is one little hitch with the game. Because it comes with all of the DLC, you do get the most powerful weapons and cars that were included in the DLC packs. You get access to those really early, like mission 2 or 3. So it does skew the game a little bit more in your favor as far as feeling really powerful. It's pretty cool. I had a good time playing. Number 5 is Golf with Your Friends. I played a little bit of it. I think it's a really good, fully featured mini golf game. Spent a lot of time on the PC. Feels like they really took advantage of that time, kind of building it out and making sure that it felt good before they brought it over to consoles. Has a bunch of different game modes, has a bunch of different maps. Go play Golf with Your Friends. It's on Xbox Game Pass, which makes everything a lot better because you just download it and it's a lot of fun. Number 4 is Snaky Bus. Snaky Bus is a quick and easy 1000 gamer score / PSN completion. I don't know if it has a platinum, doesn't matter. But it's a fun game. Snaky Bus is a game where you play as a bus and you drive around areas, whether it's downtown Seattle or weirder areas like in outer space. You drive around and you pick up passengers. You have a location to get to. Every time you drop off passengers, your bus gets longer. If you run into yourself or you stop for too long, the game is over, just like regular Snake. It was fun. I had a good time with it. Quick, easy 1000 gamer score. There's not a whole lot to say about it. Has a variety of buses, which is great for me, including my favorite, a double-decker. I had a good time with it, but I imagine that you'll either play it and beat the game, get all the unlockables that you're looking for, or you'll get all the gamer score or trophies that you're looking for, and you'll very quickly move on, which is exactly what I did. Number 3 is the puzzle game A Fold Apart, available. When I played it, it was on on Nintendo Switch. It is now on Xbox One and I believe on PlayStation 4 as well. This is a very sweet, well-told, long-distance love story where you progress the story by solving puzzles. Had a great time with it. It's very emotionally engaging and it's very emotionally relevant. I really felt for these characters and I understood what they were going through. It's a really good game. It's absolutely worth a look. The number 2 game of the quarter is Huntdown, a game that I really liked. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to feel about this. Didn't think I was going to hate it. Didn't think I was going to love it nearly as much as I did, but it's a fast-paced, action-packed blast. Checkpoints are pretty frequent, which means that the sections that you have to make runs through aren't terribly long. It's really cool. I love the style and the vibe of it. I love Anaconda. She's fantastic. It's a blast of a game that I always felt like I was making progress, and I always felt like I was like, okay, I can get these patterns down. I can figure out these enemies. It's also a game that really knew how to push my buttons and tick me off, but I always felt like I had enough of an upper hand to keep pushing forward. And again, checkpoints being, super consistent, quick load times. Once you're in the level, you're in the level. Everything's moving. You're always progressing. Great game. Super, super awesome game. Which means that my number 1 game of the quarter is Arcade Spirits, a game so nice I talked about it twice on this show. Arcade Spirits rules. I really fell in love with that game. It's a visual novel based around an arcade. You play as your own created character and you navigate making the arcade successful. You can have relationships with people. Game's awesome. I really enjoyed it. I think it's super well written and really interesting. There's a point in the game where something genuinely sad happens and I can feel myself breaking. I'm like, oh god, I have to read this, but I'm also very upset that this situation is happening. And it had that really nice feeling of I've hit the end of the game and I'm really bummed that it's done. I loved it so very much. I really fell for Arcade Spirits. And that's why it's my number 1 game of the quarter. So I guess the question would be is, how do all of these fit together as far as games of the year? In the number 5 slot, I'm actually going to put Coffee Talk because I really liked it. And that means that there are 2 visual novel games in the top 5. Number 4, I'll go A Fold Apart. Number 3, I will put Huntdown. Number 2, I'm going to go Arcade Spirits. And number 1, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Animal Crossing is awesome. Still a great game. I really enjoyed the time I spent with it. I did fall off of it very hard, but I also haven't gone back to any of these other games since I originally played them. That one is the one I have the most fond memories of. I still love even watching the video of the quarter 1 in review to get my notes correct in preparation for this. Even listening to myself talk about it, I was like, God, that was awesome. That those first couple weeks where everybody was exchanging information and it was still interesting to watch on stream and it's still fun to see the updates and all that stuff. I really love Animal Crossing, even though I haven't gotten back to it. I'm sorry, Island. My Switch is here in front of me. Sorry. I'll get back to you. Whatever I named it. As for what's next is in the video games for quarter number 3, I have 3 that I want to point out, and then 2 kind of smaller, like I have my eye on them, but I'm not going to commit to playing them because of the way I have things scheduled. I might just not get to them. And those 2 are Ghosts of Tsushima and Marvel's Avengers. The reason I might not get to Ghosts of Tsushima is that it comes out on the same day as Paper Mario the Origami King, and I'll be playing some other stuff around that time, and I'm just not 100% sure if I'll get to it. The game looks cool, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm sold on it. I liked the kind of state of play deep dive they did on it back in, I believe it was late May, but it took a long time for them to get to the point where I was like, okay, I might be willing to check this game out. And the reason I might not get to Marvel's Avengers is, as cool as it kind of sounds on paper, the recent, I think they called it like the War Room or War Table or whatever it was, the gameplay didn't look great, and I don't like that it's basically like Destiny, but with a Marvel skin on it, if that makes sense. It's a game that I feel like I could play for a little bit, but I might get to a point where it's like you have to grind to get better gear to get to the next mission, and I'll just go like, nah, I'm cool, I'm out. But I can't wait to be a Camilla Khan main, so there's that. But the 3 games that I really want to play are 1, We Should Talk, that comes out on July 16th. That looks like a story-based game. I think there's like 9 different endings, and it has something to do about a relationship in a bar. I don't really know a whole lot. Watched the trailer, looked cool to me, so I put it on my list. The other 2 games are both games that have like pretty high ceilings, but also pretty low floors, I guess you could say. They could either be amazing or terrible. And those are Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2, like the HD remaster that takes Tony Hawk 1 and 2 and remasters it for current gen, brings it all up to date, brings new skaters in, just basically remakes those 2 games. Could be really great, but we've seen with the Tony Hawk HD remake that they did on the last gen that it can feel not quite right, and it's like almost there, but not 100% there. We haven't seen a ton of it yet, and I'm definitely excited for the game, but I feel like I'm very hesitant on it because it's been a long time since we've had a good Tony Hawk game. The other one is Paper Mario the Origami King. This game was actually pretty closely tied with my anticipation with Tony Hawk, but Nintendo released a more deep dive trailer with it, which gave me a lot of hope because the battle system looks a lot more interesting. I haven't played the most recent Paper Mario games. I'm still working through all of those, but from what I've heard, the new ones aren't as interesting as the older 2, Paper Mario and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, and that made me a little bit hesitant. But again, that trailer that Nintendo released showed that they were doing something that looked cool and fun and interesting with the battle mechanics, and it got me really, really excited. I was like very cautiously optimistic, but now I'm just like throwing caution to the wind, and I am just full on hype train optimistic. Choo choo. Finally, on this week's show, we'll take a look at this week's new releases. It is a very light week, nothing in theaters or on demand that I could really find that was interesting, nothing out on Blu-ray, but one game called No Straight Roads is out this week, and I'm excited to check that out. As for the streams happening over on twitch.tv/SeanOsaurusRex, I'm actually going to be taking a little bit of a break. I'll be back on Monday, July 6th with new streams, and that'll either be Night Call or No Straight Roads, and then whichever one of those I don't play will be on Thursday. So we'll play both of those games next week when I get back and get back into the flow of streaming. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, you can scroll on down and hit that subscribe button and then ring that bell so you'll be notified when I post new videos. Head on over to twitch.tv/SeanOsaurusRex, and you can hit the follow button there so you'll be notified when I go live with new streams starting on July 6th. And as always, check back right here every Tuesday for more Week in Review. See you next week.